It's book club time, and it's one of those book clubs where only one person read the book, which is most book clubs. We're gonna talk about the works of author Leslye Walton, unscripted, off the dome. We're just gonna be going into it, okay? I do not have any opinions on the person who wrote these books, like as an individual. I don't want to know anything about her life. I'm not speculating about her life. I don't care to know that kind of information, and this is not like an indictment on her as a person. We're just sitting here, right? We're in book club, okay? We're in book club. We're gonna talk like a book club, okay? Strange Beautiful Sorrows, Ava Lavender. This book came out in 2014, 2015. Okay, that explains a lot. I first read this book in middle school, maybe high school, and it was fine. And then I read it again last year, and I did not like it very much. So this is a book that I love the first half of. Okay, it starts with the titular Ava Lavender basically just giving you her entire family history, going back to her grandmother, great grandmother, and it's just like going through all these generations of women and like all of her aunts and like relatives that she can track down, and basically the tragic ways their life ended and their like strange abilities that they have, because they all are kind of like a little bit magical. So like Ava Lavender, for example, the main character has wings. She just has them, and like no one knows why. It just happened to her. One of her relatives like turns into a bird just forever. The first half of the book is just going through each generation of her family members' lives and just saying like, this is what happened, this is what they were like, this is why they were kind of wacky and weird, and then they always die tragically because of love. Or not because of love, but they always have some kind of like heartbreak happen to them. So like her great grandmother, her husband just like disappeared one day, and she thought that he left her. He actually didn't. Ava finds out, but she didn't know that. So then she just like starts to disappear herself. Like she just like turns invisible because magical realism, baby. This is where we are. So her whole family is kind of weird, and they're also sad, and that's the plot. The first half, where it's just going through these generations, I really love. I think it's really interesting, and the descriptions are great, and it doesn't feel like you're moving towards a necessary like end goal. You don't need to feel like that. It just is like these snapshots, and they're really beautiful and cool, and through the lens of Ava Lavender in this like third person point of view, because it's her telling the story of other people. It's cool. When we get to the second half, the book starts to lose me, because just the way that Leslye Walton writes POV characters isn't great to me. The second that Leslye Walton gets to first person POV, I start to get annoyed. And the whole rest of this is just, it continues to be very meandering. It's talking about Ava's life and how she grows up and being the girl with wings, and everyone's kind of weird and ostracizes her, obviously. And then some people like really fetishize her and are like, whoa, that's crazy, but no one really treats her like a person. And then it's also talking about her familiar relationships, and of course, her falling in love and having a love story. Yay. And then like also a tragic love story that happens to her, which I'll get to in a second. The first time I ever saw someone say that there should be trigger warnings on novels was this book, and that is because the climax of this book, like the big thing that we're building towards, is a semi-graphic sexual assault scene. I'm not going to talk about that too much in depth, but skip forward if you don't want to hear about that. Basically, there is this man who comes to town and becomes immediately infatuated with Ava because she has wings, and he thinks of her as an angel, and he's like clearly not all with it, and it ends with him bringing her to his house and assaulting her. It is very short. It is not like extremely graphic, but it's also a little too much in there. I don't know. I just don't know if that was necessarily having a sexual assault scene end with a man cutting off a woman's wings. Feels a little bit heavy-handed. If we're getting into the critique area, the thing about Leslye Walton's writing is that it makes everything feel very romantic. And I mean, there are these like very lush descriptions of everything. But the setting is a very big deal to Leslye Walton, writing the setting and writing it in a very descriptive manner, and she does that very lovingly, and so the world feels very specific. I don't know if it feels necessarily very real. It doesn't have to. It's fantasy. It's very fantastical, but it feels like you're there, whatever. And that's great for most things, but when you're getting to this sexual assault and recovery area, having it be in this world, just the surrounding things make it feel a little bit romanticized is the vibe. And again, there is no warning of this happening. If there had been, like at the beginning of this book, a warning like this book contains a sexual assault scene in it, by the way, BTW, then I wouldn't really critique it very much, because at least it's something you know about. But it feels very blindsiding, which I think was the problem that some people had with this book. The person who I saw say this should have had a warning on it. it's not necessarily the fact that the scene is in there, because these stories should be told, but it is just like, whoa. Then the rest of the book after that is just her recovering, really, and she is very depressed, obviously, because something very, very traumatic happened to her. Her family is recovering from it. Like, her family is all like, how could we have let this happen? And then the very final scene of the book is Ava, again, Ava who cannot fly, like, she's never been able to fly before, going to the roof of the building and jumping off of it. And it is an open-ended ending. I'm just gonna read this out, and I'll cut it out as much as I can. I like to think that when he looked up, he saw a figure on the balcony perched precariously on the widow's walk atop the lavender house, surrounded by a flock of peculiar birds singing an unusual song only they seem to understand. I think that gives you a vibe, by the way, of just like what this writing is like when I say it's very descriptive. I like to think that he saw me, the loosened ends of my long bandages and the wispy tangled curls of my hair reaching out to the wind, the skirt of my nightgown billowing in the melodic waves. I like to think that he watched as I climbed over the side of the rickety widow's walk, my toes perched on the ledge, my fingers clasped lightly to the railing behind me. Perhaps he noticed with quiet irony that never before had anyone more resembled an angel. I like to think that he marveled at the massive bandages that unraveled completely and tumbled to the ground, and at the pair of pure white wings that unfolded from my shoulder blades and arched, large and strong, over my head. But mostly I like to think that Jack Griffith, my father, smiled as I let go of the railing behind me and, stretching my wings to the star-studded sky, soared into the night. I hate this, and I think Leslie Walton meant for it to be open-ended. I think that's cowardly, by the way. Sometimes an open-ended ending is good, and sometimes it is cowardly. I think she wanted this to be like, maybe she jumped off the building and killed herself the way people die when they jump off buildings, right? Or maybe she flew away. But this is preceded by like several pages of Ava being very depressed after her graphic sexual assault. And I don't really think that was the way it had to end. I don't really think that a story of recovery should end with a girl jumping off a building. Just my thought, Leslie Walton. And again, like, maybe that is the story. Maybe it's a tragedy.
Hey guys, so my mic audio got fucked up after this, so you're gonna have to be dealing with my phone camera audio for the rest of this video. Sorry. But it feels, again, I read that to you. It feels very romantic. It does not feel like you are reading about a bad thing happening to someone. It feels like you are reading a beautiful story of a girl jumping off a building. And I don't think that was a very responsible thing to do, Leslie Walton, in your book that is for, like, teenage girls. I don't know, that's just me. So yeah, this is a book that I loved the first half of, was okay about the second half of, and then hated the ending so much that it ruined the entire book for me. But that is not the book that I'm here to talk about today. Surprisingly, I'm here to talk about The Price Guide to the Occult, which is her second book, her sophomore work, right? And I was really excited when I saw this. I just saw it on the shelf of the library, and I was like, oh my god. Me and Leslie Walton have beef, but I was very excited to see what her next novel would look like, because I think that all of those issues, I mean, this is her first book ever, and she writes beautifully for a first-time author. So I was sure that her second book would improve on a lot of the issues that I had with the first one. It didn't. I think both these books were born of the same idea. She's retreading very familiar ground here, and none of it works as well as the first book, and I think that's very strange. I think it's really odd to see an author regress like this, which is why I felt like I had to talk about it to someone, because I can't just pull into someone's DMs about this. This book starts with a prologue that is about the main character's great-great-grandmother, who is a witch, and about all of the children she has, all of the daughters she has, like 7 generations of daughters, who are also witches, and who are all doomed to have a tragic romance that will end badly, and will result in their next daughter, who will then have the same thing happen again. So again, this is about, like, magical women who have tragic love stories, so it's the same. And they're also on a Pacific Northwest island. So again, the setting thing, the lush descriptive writing, it's all gonna be there again. But this one only has that prologue that is about the great-great-great-grandmother. The rest is all from the point of view of the protagonist. Her name is Noor. I think she is one of the most irresponsible YA protagonists that I've ever seen written. I don't want to say she's annoying. She annoyed me. I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of confused by some of this, and to be fair to Leslie, by halfway through this book, I was totally checked out, and I was, like, basically hate reading it, because I was so annoyed by how much, just everything. I was just very annoyed. So maybe some of the world building was better established than I thought it was, and I just wasn't really paying full attention anymore. Rowena Blackburn is, like, the matriarch who sets all of this stuff up, and she is a real witch and she has all the power. She can do everything all witches do. Then she has a doomed romance with the man, which ruins her life, as you do, if you are a Leslie Walton character. And she curses her bloodline kind of unknowingly to all experience the same thing, where they have a 3-day doomed romance with some man who's related to the men who curse her on the island. There's like 7 guys who they're all gonna have to go through all of them. You know, they have to go through all of these men. And all of her daughters, instead of being a full witch like her, just have one gift that they are able to do. So like, for example, the protagonist Noor's grandmother can heal people, but she can't do anything else. Noor, though, Noor tells her loved ones that she only has one gift. But actually, she has all of them. She's a real witch. And it never makes sense to me why she hides this information, even a little bit. There's no point at which her family members make it seem like they would actually ostracize her or be afraid of her or anything like that if she told them she had all these gifts. Because Noor is very loved by her family. I'll get to the points where she isn't, by the way. I'll get to her mom in a second. But for the rest of her family, the ones who take care of her and raise her by the time we meet her in the story, they are very loving. They show no signs that they definitely be like confused at first because it's not how things work. But if Noor demonstrated to them that she has all these gifts, they would not be like, "You're using black magic, witch. They're witches." What? Also, she hides the fact that she's a witch from like the rest of the town. But it seems like everyone just knows. Like, she has a best friend. We're also gonna get to that. I get the feeling that she got some feedback that her first book was not diverse enough, or maybe she just wanted to include that more. So a lot of the characters, just by like name and description, like the random people who populate the town that they are in, are definitely not white. The main character has a best friend named Savvy, who is black, and she is, first of all, the black girl best friend who only cares about her best friend's situations, and like she only cares about like Noor's romantic life, supporting Noor, saying funny quips about how hot boys are because they're teen girls, and she's the black best friend, right? She has, by the way, Savvy seems to have a really like sad backstory that is never really addressed fully. It's mentioned by Noor, but she doesn't like unpack it, so she has her own shit going on. But from what we see on the page, she only cares about Noor and talking to Noor and asking Noor how she's doing. And also, this is just a thing that annoys me. Maybe it's not that annoying. I don't know, because I don't know the stuff firsthand. But Savvy's hair changes like every 5 seconds. And I know that is Leslie Walton, just, you know, she writes these very romantic, descriptive things. But Savvy's hair, like, she cannot be relaxing her hair and then having box braids and then having an afro, like afro puffs, back to back like this. I'm confused. Then again, I also got confused multiple times about how much time had passed between the chapters. It was never fully clear. So maybe it had been months in between, but I was just like, so yeah, having the quirky black girl best friend who does not really seem to have a fully actualized self outside of the main character, and whose hair defies the laws of physics, was strange to me. It's way too early for that tangent. We're getting into it. Noor's mother is evil, and she's just like full evil, right? So what is her name again? Fern. Fern is her mother. Noor's mother's name is Fern, and her gift, her witch power, the one that she has, is that she can control people and make them do what she wants, basically. Which seems pretty overpowered as a witch gift. Didn't seem to actually care for her as a mother at all. And then, at a certain point, Noor's mother just leaves. Noor moves in with her grandparents, who are good, and just like is chilling out. Once again, very similarly to Ava Lavender, this book needs a trigger warning, and I think it is very irresponsible to give to teenage girls, the audience that you are writing for, Leslie. Because Noor has a history of self-harm, and she has recovered at this point in the story. She is not actively self-harming, which is good. There are no scenes of self-harm in this story, but it is the only thing she thinks about for the entire book, is how much she wants to hurt herself. Like, let's just get real personal out here in the book club. This is book club, right? We unpack, we dish, we talk shit. This book put me in a really, really bad mental place to read this, to have a character constantly be thinking about how much she wants to hurt herself. Every time she sees a sharp object, every time something bad happens to her, her first reaction is like she's constantly touching her own scars. Also, there is a point where the love interest looks at her scars and is like, "You're beautiful, all of you." Like, touches her scars. You know the thing, the like, "Don't do this anymore for me." You can't be giving this to teenagers. You can't be telling teenagers that is romantic. You just need to, God, God, also, paired with that, Noor is not a character who seems to ever, like, act. There are very few points in the story where she's, like, doing anything to fix her situation. She's just observing bad things happening and thinking, man, this sucks. And doing absolutely nothing about it. It gets comical by the end of the story. But that being in a story about mental health, I don't think is great. Once again, I don't think having this character who is struggling so much with her life and her history with, like, her mother and recovering from that, I don't think having her have such a total lack of agency sets a very good standard. And if that aspect was taken out of it, then Noor being very like reactive instead of active as a character, that would just be kind of an annoying writing flaw, but it wouldn't be irresponsible. But when it becomes a mental health story, it becomes a matter of responsibility. Almost nothing happens for the first half of this book. Basically, the plot, okay? So Noor's mother, again, left a long time ago. Randomly one day, there is this thing that shows up, the price guide to the occult. And it is this price guide of spells that you can send in to Fern Blackburn, Noor's mother. You send what spell you want her to cast, and she'll cast it for you. And this is a really big deal, because Fern should not be able to cast these things, because she only has the one gift, which is controlling people. She can't do anything else. So the things that Fern starts doing are not possible unless she is doing black magic, which means, like, hurting other people. Noor, the big, like, I mean, Noor's mother was always shitty to her, but the big moment of trauma for Noor was when her mother physically abused her to cast black magic to get her father to fall back in love with her, because she couldn't control her father because he was part of the generational curse. I don't like this book. So Noor knows directly what kind of pain is necessary for that kind of black magic to be used by her mother, and that's why she's really upset about this book existing. Most of the book really just becomes them getting news about Noor's mother. Like, she released this book, now she's on every news channel, now she's, like, doing miracles on live TV. Everyone loves her. She's starting basically a worldwide cult that, like, the Dalai Lama is in. I think they say the Pope at one point, like, welcomes her or shit like that. Like, she's become this basically religious figure. All of that information is basically news that she gets through, like, watching videos on YouTube. None of it affects life on the island, really. Bad things are happening on the island. Like animals are leaving because they're like, we don't want to be here anymore. Like, something bad is going to happen. There is preparation for bad things happening, but none of it really seems to be directly, like, no like big direct effects are happening right away. So most of the early chapters of the book are just Noor hanging out, doing normal teenager things, thinking about her mom, but no events occur. It's very odd. It's very strange for a fantasy novel to have so little going on. So there's a point halfway through the story. This is the point where I fully gave up on the book. When Fern comes back to the island. Noor's mother does come back to, like, talk to her. They welcome her for dinner. Fern is serving. She's wearing a provocatively fitted suit, the same sickly green color as the car parked outside. The jacket flares at the hips. It was unbuttoned just enough to expose the edges of a see-through bustier.
Bustier.
She's showing up, she's serving absolute... She's getting, like, Disney villain. Like, full-on Disney villain, wearing a brat green blazer. Funny. That's funny. Sorry, that has nothing to do without anything. I just thought that was funny. So basically, her mom just shows up. She says, like, I want to talk to Noor. Noor's grandma is like, don't do that. You can't. She grabs Noor with magic, and then Noor stops her because, again, Noor has every magic ability in the world. So Noor is, like, ultra powerful right now. Noor finally uses one of them to stop her mom from hurting her. Her mom literally doesn't know what to do and just leaves. Her mom just leaves. So at this point in the story, we know that at any point, Noor can just stop her mom from doing any of this because she's a real witch and her mom's a fake, stupid witch. Also, again with the, like, weird stuff about mental health. So Noor's father is being brainwashed by her mother, by Fern, to love her. Noor kind of, like, starts to break that ability in him. The house is flooding because Fern is trying to kill them all, I think. Noor is trying to save her dad from the flooding house. And, like, while on the threshold of leaving, he's like, I hate my life so much. I'm never going to be able to forgive myself for the things that I did while under her control. Just kill me. Just let me die. Just let me die. And Nor does. Nor, please, do you have any idea what it's like? A few weeks ago, your mother's power started to weaken, and I woke up and found years of my life suddenly gone, vanished without a trace or a memory. I found loved ones buried, dreams long dead. Let me go, please. Let me be free of this hell. Then Nor says, not like this, which kind of makes you think that she's going to save her dad, right? No. Nor uses the, angel of death magic to let her dad die peacefully, I guess. I don't know. I don't know about that one. So then Nor goes to the roof of the building where she just killed her dad, and her mom is full Disney villain up there, and again, she is so campy. And I think it's fun. I think it's really fun to have the villain be like this, but in a story about, mental health and abuse, I think having the bad guy be this cartoonishly evil really diminishes the points you're trying to make, I will say. But I will say that the thing that I enjoyed most about this book was Fern being fucking crazy, fully crazy. It was the only entertaining part of this book, because nothing else happens. She gives this whole, speech about how cool and awesome and godlike she is. Did you think you had beaten me? Did you think you'd be lucky enough to defeat me? She's giving a full villain monologue, and it's hilarious. She says, I am the thing that the darkness fears. Then, Nor just, kills her, undoes her reality. Destroys, I'm not talking, kills her, with a knife. I'm talking, makes her body start to disappear piece by piece and just unexist. Which is, again, this is a thing she could do the whole time. It ends with her saying, I am the thing. You're wrong, Mother. I am the thing that the darkness fears. Which I think could have been a really cool scene if this book wasn't so bad. Or just, stupid. I don't want to say bad, because that's not descriptive, but, pointless, maybe. So, can we talk about the completely unnecessary love triangle? There's this boy that shows up near the beginning of the book named Reed, and he is good and chill and normal, and he's the one who kisses her scars, and is like, you'll always be beautiful, every part of you is beautiful. Once again, he only cares about Nor. He never seems to, show any signs. I mean, he has an ex-girlfriend. There's this other guy who shows up, who's, mean to her in a YA protagonist way. And he is related to one of the people... he's related to the secret 8th bloodline of men who wronged Nor's great-great-grandmother, right? So there's these, 7 men who each generation after was cursed to fall in love with one of them and then have a tragic romance and all of that stuff. And then Nor is supposed to be the first one who isn't dealing with all of that. Then this guy Gage shows up, and he's related to a secret 8th guy who might be part of the curse. And it's stupid. It's dumb and bad, right? And also it amounts to literally nothing. Nor kisses him at one point because they're in a really dramatic, violent, scary situation. And then at the end of the book, after all the bad stuff happens, they're like, hey, I just kissed you because we were in a really tragic, scary situation, but we don't have feelings for each other, right? I'm good to be with my other boyfriend. And he's like, yeah, we're good. We're so chill. So all of that was pointless. That whole subplot was completely pointless, just to take up time and make it feel like more was going on than was. Let's just find some of the scenes where she's contemplating self-harm together. Nor swiped at her wet eyes, her old scars screaming so loudly she could barely hear anything else. He stared at those sharp tweezers at the edge of the sink. It would be so easy to just reach over, grab them, and hoard them in her pocket for later, when she was alone. She used to do that all the time. How many times had she waited until Apathea's back was turned to filch one of the steak knives from the wall? It's not bad that is a scene, but that is literally constant throughout this book. It's just her, every time something bad happens, every time things go wrong, she thinks about hurting herself, and it gets exhausting. And I'm speaking as someone who has dealt with that before. I think it puts the thought in a person's head much too many times. For the reader's sake, I think that is just irresponsible. And I'm thinking, again, about, a 14-year-old reading this, who might be dealing with their own shit and doesn't have fully, hasn't worked out that stuff yet. I think this book romanticizes those problems so much. I think the protagonist doesn't really do anything to make her, to better herself that they could take from. There's nothing that a reader takes from that's oh, this is healthy behavior. It's just complete non-action. It's just these constant thought cycles that can be reproduced in the reader. It's a girl who has a romance with a man who kisses her scars and tells her they're beautiful, and I think that is not something that you want a child to aspire towards. I think including that at all for, you know, I'm thinking like 14-year-olds reading this, I think that is bad. This book ends with a list of resources, which is great, right? Like, if you are struggling with these things, please use these resources. I think that's great. One of them is a Tumblr account called The Butterfly Project. And, that, you know, this is a Tumblr account where you, like, draw a butterfly on your arm whenever you want to hurt yourself, and then it keeps you from doing it because you look at the butterfly and you're like, I can't do that. Which I think is good. Like, these are good things, but when you go to this Tumblr account, what you will find is a bunch of posts from people who are in a incredibly difficult headspace, in a really, really dark place, writing, like, pouring their heart out in these posts about how they either just relapse in self-harm or they really, really, really want to, and talking in graphic detail about that. And then they do the inspirational thing. They draw the butterfly on their wrist. They don't hurt themselves, maybe. Or maybe they're like, next time I won't. But if you are in that dark place, reading those accounts of people, reading other people who are in a similar place, who do not know what to do, that is not going to help you. And I think that is the issue with these books. I do believe they are written from a place of wanting to help people and give them stories that make them feel seen. But sometimes feeling seen is not what you need. Sometimes you don't need a story that reproduces what you are dealing with, right? Sometimes you need someone to come to your room and take all the sharp objects away and say, go on a walk. I just think these books are capable of doing a lot more harm than the good that they really want to do. If you watch this all the way to the end, that's crazy. And I think that's really cool. Thank you for giving me your time, and I hope I was worthy of it. Make bad art. Don't make irresponsible art. Or do, but, like, maybe don't. If you make irresponsible art, just think a little bit further about what you do with it. That's all I think. So,